Welcome back to another live. We're going to be talking to Spindle today. So we're going to be talking to Spindle, but we're also going to be having a sign director by the name of Bonnie and an executive producer by the name of Adam. If you're just joining, we are going to be talking to Spindle, a production company based in London, or actually a production studio, award-winning. Let me give the accolades. An award-winning production studio based in London by the name of Spindle. That's who we're talking to today. I'm just going to invite them in. And we're going to be talking to Adam, who is an executive producer with Spindle. So we're going to be speaking to them a little bit about director's journey on how to get signed. And also we're going to be talking a little bit about just working with new talent. So if you've got any questions, please ask them. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for taking this call. So we're going to jump straight in because we've not got a lot of time, but we're going to ask all the questions. So welcome. Bonnie, I want to jump straight to you.
Cool.
Um, hello, hi. Um, I want to ask you essentially like how you got started with filmmaking. If anyone doesn't know, Bonnie is a filmmaker. She, I don't know, actually, I kind of wanted to introduce you and just like say the things that you like, the sort of style that you have, which is from what I've gathered is there's a bit of comedy. It's sort of like you have like a dark tone in your work and you sort of like work with comedy, but I'll give you the floor to kind of explain your sort of career and your style.
Nice. Big question. Yeah, I mean, I would say that is my style, and I'm still developing it for sure, but that is the route that I feel like I'm going down. I guess I started with no experience whatsoever, no sort of formal filmmaking training. I used to do a lot of photography, and that was my sort of real passion. And then worked and assisted on music videos for a little while in Scotland. And then a few years ago applied to a funding scheme run by GMAC in Glasgow, which is like a Scottish government funded film, kind of like BFI in Scotland. And they're a charity that help sort of working class filmmakers get a start and make their first film. So I pitched an idea that was really close to my heart and got a little bit of money for it, which was amazing. And they kind of assisted me in making that first film. And that was really the catalyst for sitting here today. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have made that film. And it wasn't a lot of money, but it like we did so much with it. And I think that's kind of, I'm still getting started and I'm still working with pretty small budgets. And I feel like that's really, I don't know, it's given me like the tools to utilize not having a lot and still being able to push creatively. So yeah, I made that film, which is called All Up There. And it was 5 minutes long. And I've never really made a proper film before. We worked with a fully female crew in Glasgow. We made it in 2 days. And then I edited it myself because we didn't have any money to get anyone else involved. So it then took maybe a year to actually get it out in the world. I was kind of scared to put it out as well, just because it's quite a personal film. And then eventually kind of decided to do it and put it into a few film festivals, not really expecting anything. And then it ended up doing quite well, which was really surprising for me and also a big deal for just to, I don't know, like to be able to have such little money and time and to be able to see how far it went is really amazing. So yeah, that was, I guess, the start of it.
From that point, so essentially you were directing music videos, you were like, okay, I want to, when you were directing music videos, like it was that something that you were kind of like, this is something I want to do, or you just kind of in it and just like, I love music videos, I just want to do music videos, I like directing, or was it you just fell into that kind of role with directing music videos?
Yeah, I think it comes again from photography. Like I've always loved music and would would I wanted to be in that world, but I had no connection to film, no connection to production, didn't know anyone. Where I grew up, no one did film, so it still felt very inaccessible to me. So it was never my plan to be a filmmaker or a director. It wasn't something that I thought was even possible. But then when I started working in music photography, I would then kind of follow the artists around and shoot little B-roll for them and help them on their music videos. And then from there, it kind of spiraled. But I think I still do have that kind of musical urge to make films that are quite rhythmic, and I really love composition and soundtracks, and that's something that I'm still kind of trying to embody in my work, and I would love to do more music videos as well, so that's the plan for this year, hopefully.
So then you mentioning that, you know, you got into the scheme and then you got this film made and then it's like it's got this buzz, it's got this attention. How does it feel kind of like then versus now and the sort of transition? Because then I want to jump into a bit of like, you know, how you sort of met Spindle, but like how's it been feeling with this transition of like where it was before to that film and then to now where it's like, oh, I can actually get paid doing this
No,
and this is a thing that I can do.
I'm still getting used to that actually, because this is like, again, never something I thought I could actually do. And even moving down to London was like a big deal for me. I kind of put it off for a long time because I, one, couldn't really afford it, and then two, didn't, I was quite stubborn. I wanted to be able to stay in Scotland and still be making the films I wanted to make. But then I am so glad I made that leap. Um, but yeah, I think, sorry, I've completely forgotten the question.
No. Like what you were saying was fab. Essentially, what I was just talking about was the transition. But it sounds kind of like
Right.
you're sort of realizing that you know it wasn't a thing that you had in mind before, but it's like it's all sort of coming to you now in the
Yeah,
sense of like being able to work in this.
exactly. And I think the nature of that film was so personal to me, and it really meant that I made it with no sort of boundaries or no one to answer to. So it was like the most me thing. And I think for that to be the first thing I've made has been really nice to come into Spindle and say, this is the tone I want to set, this is the type of work I want to make, but now just elevating it. And I was really grateful to Spindle because they helped me cut the original film down from a 5 minute sort of short to a 1 minute campaign for the charity itself. So we sort of regraded it, we recut it, and it feels to me now much more polished and the way I wanted it to be when I was doing it originally, if I had the means to. So just in terms of that development has been amazing, even just within that individual film. But as a whole, as a filmmaker, I've totally grown in the last year. So that's all down to these guys.
Nice. I want to talk a little bit about how that Spindle Bonnie situation kind of came about. If anyone doesn't know, Spindle is a sort of like progressive, diverse production studio in London. So how did that kind of like relationship start and spark? Like who messaged who jumped in whose DMs? Like what was the romance story?
I've always been a fan of Molly Burdett. She did a lot of music videos early on that were like featuring my favorite artists. So she was on my radar for a while, and then I think I followed her on Instagram like years and years ago, and then came across that she was signed to Spindle, followed Spindle, and then came across everybody else, came across Greg. Just had like they were just right up my street in the type of work Spindle were putting out. So I'd always been a fan, and then all up there, the film I was talking about, it went to the BFI, and Greg Hackett, who's the founder of Spindle and an amazing director in his own right, he messaged me and said, if you're ever in London, let me know. And I just so happened to be in London that weekend for the BFI festival. So I came into this, we sat literally right here and chatted for nearly 3 hours. Like it was it was a long time, and we just clicked. And yeah, from there on, really, it's kind of, I've been in this office ever since.
Yeah, I mean, Greg is an incredibly passionate person. Anyone that you meet who knows him will tell you he's very, very passionate. And when he watched All Up There and met Bonnie, he came to the rest of the Spindle team and just sort of said, you know, I found a director that we absolutely need to sign. Sometimes you just know, and his kind of passion levels went to levels that we hadn't quite experienced before. So we knew that there was obviously something in Bonnie, and then watching All Up There, we agreed. And yeah, as Bonnie said, it's kind of that is the rest is history. But it's the start of a really wonderful relationship, and we're super stoked to be working together.
Amazing. Just before I touch on you, Adam, because I wanna hop back and forth. working from how like before versus now, how does it feel kind of, because you've Bonnie, you've worked with like Heinz, so you've actually worked with like actual brands now where you're sort of like you've gone from music videos to actually like, okay, these are live brands, real companies, you know, higher stakes. How does it feel making that jump, and what are some of the things that you've learned in the process of making that sort of that big leap?
Yeah, well, that's all happened very recently as well. So I still feel like I am learning and figuring everything out. But we shot Heinz, which was the first piece of work I did with Spindle. When did we shoot that? January this year. So yeah, it's just came out, which is exciting because it's been a long um, journey to get there. But I think, I mean, I never thought when I came and met Greg a year ago, and to think that I would be actually making commercials a year later was never sort of in my immediate plan. I didn't think it would happen that fast, and I'm so grateful that it has. But I guess everything has been new to me. Like as I said before, I didn't have any kind of notion as to what PPM was, or you know, going on a tech record. I'd never done any of that before, so it was all still very new. And there was a part of me that had a bit of imposter syndrome, quite a lot of imposter syndrome, turning up and having to lead a set. But I think because um, one, I feel like it comes naturally to me, and two, because I love it so much, it kind of evolved and never really felt like that much of a jump. I was just grateful to be doing it, and just I guess you have to kind of embrace it and just see what happens, which is what I'm still doing.
Amazing. I just want to, just for the audience, can I get you to explain what a PPM is and a tech recce is?
Oh God. A PPM is like the really, really long meeting you have with all of the heads of department and agency and client right before the shoot, just so I guess you're all on the same page and know what's going on, and answering lots of tricky questions that might arise, or trying to. And then a tech recce is when you go to the location that you're filming and just make sure that everyone's happy and knows what they're doing, and a technical aspect, so with the gaffer and the DOP, etc.
Amazing.
So yeah.
Thank you. I feel like what I'm loving is that even though things are still quite new, so you're still kind of like quite sort of like bright and bushy tailed, and that you're kind of like taking everything in, and you're kind of just like, you know what, whatever comes along, like I'm here for the ride.
Yeah.
And I think that's a sort of like a really good sort of mindset to have, especially at this stage as well. And for anyone that's watching or listening, knowing that you don't have to know everything straight out the gate, and don't have to be a completely finished product. You can just put your stuff out there, and yeah. So I love that. Jumping over to Adam, and also just a reminder, anyone listening or anyone watching, if you have any questions that you want to ask Bonnie or Adam, feel free to jump in the chat and put those questions down. There are no such thing as silly questions. So Adam, I just wanted to ask, can I get you to explain what your role is? Because I feel like a lot of people don't know. Like even sometimes myself, if someone asks me what is an executive lead, I'm like, I could not verbatim tell you.
And nor could I, honestly. So what does an EP do? What do I do? I think, we're joining the gap between the creative opportunities that are coming in to the production company, in this case Spindle, and the directors that we represent, and making sure that we're sort of giving the right creative opportunities to the right directors. A big part of the role is nurturing the talent, and in particular at Spindle, it's about nurturing new talent. So Bonnie and I work very closely together. For instance, we signed with Bonnie probably about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. But before that was sort of, public knowledge that was PR'd, we're working in the background to help Bonnie have the tools she needs to move into that commercial work, like Heinz. So there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of piecing together creative and production. It's kind of like we're in the middle, overseeing the output of what the production company is. But it's a lot of knowing a little about lots of things.
I get what you mean. So it's almost kind of like you're the bridge between you're the sort of bridge between like the directors and kind of the actual like the other parts of the team. So it's, and especially you yourself that deals with the new talent. It's kind of like giving that extra assist to an experience that you can kind of help them and sort of like mature them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of pushing the creative as far as it possibly can and making sure that the director's vision is being represented, but not so much so that the production wheels fall off, and making sure that things sort of maintain some semblance of reality.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Love that.
Still not
So
a very clear answer for you though.
no, but do
Still
you
don't
know what?
know.
In that sense, in that essence, I think it is quite clear in the sense of like you essentially manage the production in the sense of the expectations for the client while also like making sure the vision is there. So you feel like the equilibrium between the two worlds of client and director that just makes sure that the vision is there. I can see the frustration of like how you have to explain what you're doing because it's the same for me trying to explain it back to you, but no, I think that clears that up a lot more now. What I want to ask you then is like, how is it you find new talent? Like, because obviously with Spindle specifically, like you deal with like progressive talent. Like, how is it that you guys go about that in finding new talent to kind of take on?
I don't think there's ever really an easy answer to this or an easy solve. It's about always making sure that you've got your finger on the pulse and you're knowing what new talent is coming up. And in order to do that, you've kind of got to just be watching all the time. And, platforms like, the Shinies is brilliant for uh, a production company like Spindle who want to focus on emerging talent. But yeah, it sounds like a very, very basic thing to say, but Instagram is such an amazing tool these days. People are making incredible work if all they've got is a phone and a good idea.
Mm,
And now that we have platforms online to put that out to the public, it makes our jobs on one hand a lot easier because you can see it all in one neatly packaged place, but a lot harder on the other hand because the amount of quality talent out there is just so high. Um, so I think for us, it's not so much how we find new talent, but rather what we're looking for, and I think that boils down to one a very unique kind of style, and something that doesn't just fall into like a homogenized pot of the same
mm,
stuff. And as part of that, I think you have to have intention in what you're making. So one thing we saw in Bonnie, for instance, is you watch something like All Up There, and you can pick out the intention behind the decisions that she's made. It's not just about something looking beautiful. It does look beautiful, but you can see there's a real intention and there's always been a why asked before just making a decision, in terms of the whether that's like narratively or thematically. So yeah, I think as I say, more pertinent for us is what we're looking for rather than how we actually find it.
interesting. So with I because that's because I was going to say that my next question was going to be like what does a filmmaker need to have in their portfolio, but it's kind of sounding like basically work that they want to how they want to showcase themselves, because essentially what you're saying is that you're looking for sort of essentially artists that just make the work that they want to put out in the world and have a vision.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because it has become so much easier to create, which is a wonderful thing, and I'm here to champion that. But that does mean that um, perhaps there's a lot of repetition, or at least there's the potential for recycling. And there's the old age adage that there's no new idea, and I get that, but at least putting your own spin on it is definitely something we'd look for, and something that is important. And to your point, I think maybe, don't sell yourself short by making something because someone's asking you to, but it might not quite fit in with what you want to do. I think you have to have real conviction in the choices you're making and know that you're making something that's true to you without sounding too lofty about
Mm,
it.
I know, I get what you mean, and it's so fun. It's so interesting you say that because it's kind of tying back to like you saying that, and then having Bonnie sat right next to you. I think is kind of like that perfect, that sort of that perfect kind of almost like proof in the pudding, and essentially like you know, Bonnie, you've made this film and you were like, literally, I just want to make this film, I just want to do this thing, put my vision out there, don't care whatever happens, I just need my vision out there. Moments later, now with Spindle, because it's like they want your vision specifically.
I know, and that I'm still getting used to that idea as well, because I sit in the office amongst amazing directors who are much further ahead in their careers than me, and it's both like still quite new for me to be in the same room as Molly, for say. Like I used to be I am such a big fan of her, but I never would have thought a few years ago that I'd be sat shoulder to shoulder with her, working on things with her, and you know, it's a big full circle moment. And I think me and Ads, we kind of joined at the same time, and Spindle got super busy with all the projects they were doing last summer, and Adam kind of got lumped with me, and now we're in this together. But like, if it wasn't for Adam, I wouldn't know what the PPM was that I just explained.
You would. Someone else would have told you. I'm
I don't know. That I didn't know what it was, but yeah. So I feel really grateful that it feels quite like it's all happened at the right time, as cheesy.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of on that as well, Bonnie and I have had conversations where she's sort of, you know, having these lovely pinch me moments of I'm here working alongside directors that I really respect. And I have to say, you're here because people want your opinions and your vision. And I think actually deep down we're all hopefully relatively humble people, but sometimes as a director, as a filmmaker, like I said before, you've got to have that conviction, and you've got to remember that you're here because you're going to make this thing better, whether that's an agency script because you're making a commercial and you know they've given you the seed of an idea and you're going to let it bloom into something bigger, or whether it's, you know, something a writer's giving you and you want to make a short or a feature. Again, you're there to make the thing better and sort of herald that journey through to the actual creation of it. And I think more young filmmakers and directors coming through need to absolutely remember that they're there in that moment because people want them there, and so they should trust their gut, trust their opinions, and kind of do what they think is best.
I want to jump on that point really quickly, and I want to direct this towards Bonnie. And this, it may apply to you, it may not. How do you deal with, if you deal with, like, for example, especially in this scenario that you're in now, like, I guess, imposter syndrome? Because a lot of, especially, and I want to ask you specifically, and you can say if you feel comfortable asking it this way, but as a female director or femme presenting director, like, is there, like, how do you feel with imposter syndrome, also with like directing with gender, like how are you navigating that currently, because you're sort of journeying into that now?
Yeah. I mean, I actually feel more imposter syndrome being working class than being a woman, purely just because I'd never seen this world around me growing up, so it felt inaccessible. I feel like I'm saying I have imposter syndrome, but I do also believe in myself, and I feel like it's taken me a little bit of time, but by the time I got to say shooting Heinz, I was on set, and I actually I was expecting to be super nervous before shooting, and we actually went and sat in a cafe before, and Adam was like, why don't we go and remove ourselves from the craziness of the set, and we can just chill, you can go over your notes. And I didn't even feel like I needed to do that on the day, because I was ready for it. And again, that sounds really cheesy, but but it's like it's taken me a while, and don't get me wrong, like I still have it for sure, but I think I also know now that I can do it, so it's giving me that boost, and I think it will always be there naturally. But I like to think, hopefully, soon enough, I'll feel like, yeah, 100% in it. But yeah, I don't know. I feel great, and I also think I'm inspired by so many female directors. Um, most of If I could list my top 5 directors, they're all women, and that's not because they're women; it's because of the work that they do. And I guess my motivation is to make work that represents what I care about and where I come from, and a lot of that does surround female stories, and that's what I'm passionate about, and that's what I like to consume as well. So yeah, I feel great about where I'm at just now in that sense, and I love working with as many women as well as possible. When I first made All Up There, initially I was told that I said I wanted to shoot with an all-female crew in Glasgow, and I was initially told that there wasn't enough women to do that, and it was ridiculous. And we did it, and it was amazing. And don't get me wrong, love working with people of other genders as well, but there's something about making a film like that as well, which is so female focused, to make it with a bunch of amazing women who believe in it and who maybe, you know, relate to the topic as well, was very empowering. So yeah, I want to do loads more of that where I can as well.
Amazing. And it feels like you're at the right place to do that,
Yeah.
especially with Spindle and the support that's there. I want to jump back to Adam. I want to jump to you for, I guess, even though, yes, directors make the things that you're making and want to make, how best is it for them to get in contact with you or someone like you or with Spindle if they want to work with Spindle and they want to sort of like be in Bonnie's position or someone, you know, in that same kind of sort of vibe?
Well, I kind of come back to the point of keep make what you want to make, and put it out there. I had some conversations with some young filmmakers recently and told them exactly that. They said, "How do we get into this position?" And I said, "Well, just keep making." And their response, slightly hesitantly, was, "But we don't have big, expensive, fancy cameras, or we don't have a crew." And I was like, "It doesn't matter. If you've got an idea and a phone in your pocket, go out and shoot it, and put it out into the world." Because, you know, without sounding again too lofty about it, that sort of manifests the intention of, I'm going to be a filmmaker, and hopefully someone will eventually see it. If you already have a body of work, I think, you know, it's kind of old school and you have to be very methodical about it, but reach out to people. Usually production companies have their EPs contact details on their website. You know, and we do receive a lot of emails of that nature, but I would say some advice in that respect is make it individual. Don't just tell me what your
So
portfolio is.
don't be super like, I'm going to spam like 500 different, be like, hi, Adam, you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Reference some of our work, you know, that you particularly like, and that's gonna pique the interest. Also, recently we've had a lot of people, because again, our office address is on the website. I mean, I don't know if we're going to get absolutely inundated with visitors now. We've had a few people recently who have kind of knocked on the door and just said, "Hey, I was in the area. This is my CV." And that's wonderful, particularly post-COVID. The world we live in is so remote and digital. For someone to just, you know, get on the tube and come and knock on the door is great. Yeah. And I would say this is not necessarily a means by which to kind of get noticed by a production company as a director, but Spindle specifically do something called open studios periodically throughout the year, and that's when we open our doors to the filmmaking community, particularly people who are merging within it, and just spend the evening chatting. It's networking. People can talk to us and ask us questions, and if you follow us on our socials, then updates about that will come out whenever the next event will be. So that's a good thing to look out for as well.
Amazing. So then everybody who's listening or was just joined or is watching, pay attention and follow Spindle on Instagram so you can look out for these events, because I know we need to be meeting up in person and discussing and promoting ourselves. With that, I'm going to end the live here. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you so much, Adam, for giving us your time. And I hope everything works out for you guys. And we're looking forward to seeing more of your work. And for anyone who's just joining now, we're going to have this live recorded and posted on the Shiny website as well as on the Instagram platform. So if you are just joining, it will all be there and you can watch this back. So thank you so much, guys. And I'm going to end it here.
Thank you so much for having us. Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.
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 Mm-hmm.